You know, we talk about the mysteries of the world, mysteries of the fictional entertainment universe, the nonfiction universe. But there was a certain line in a certain MASH episode that has perplexed people across the world for the last 4 decades. And it's in the classic episode involving Charles Emerson Winchester in a teleplay called The Life You Saved. Now, in that episode, Winchester almost gets killed by a sniper, and he becomes fascinated with the battle of good versus evil and life versus death. He tries to seek out, through talking to a patient that survived death and came back to life, through different questions. What does it all mean when you die? Do you go to a better place? Do you just wink out? Now, in this case, he becomes almost incoherent. He asks the guy that's running the Jeep depot to take apart a whole Jeep and put it back together, part by part, to kind of understand what makes up life. Now, he finally decides to seek out more answers by going to battalion aid. And he starts to treat a young patient that at first seems to be recovering, but finds out that because of a spinal injury or some other incidents, he's not only lost his eyesight, he's paralyzed. Now, Winchester decides to console him in a moment that goes against his character, because usually Charles, at that point in the series, wasn't that, what he called, compassionate with the patients he was treating. When he tells the soldier he's holding his hand after the soldier says, please hold my hand, the soldier responds with saying, oh my God, I'm going to die. And Charles asks him, what is happening to you? What are you feeling? And after a few seconds, he says, I smell bread. Now, for me, personally, the soldier probably was in a dream state and was hearkening back to a time of his youth, or a time when he felt safe and at home. It could have been his grandmother, his mother smelling homemade bread is a big maritime thing. So as a person, I could respond to it. But for other people, said the term "I smell bread" could be, the fact is, in regards to brain trauma, certain patients have the smell of bread, like the sensory aspect of their living moments or their dying moments. You smell different things. But according to the creators of the episode, including Alan Alda, it was sort of put in there as a as a discussion or a perplexing quote that people would be analyzing for a while. Now, whole classes in psychiatry, psychology, entertainment have studied that line. But for me, again, this is just my conceptual thoughts about it. It's basically saying, in certain cases, when you die, you're overwhelmed with senses. I'm not exactly sure if he was heading to heaven or basically winking out, or no longer around. As a Christian, I believe there's an afterlife, but that's just me. But if you're an atheist watching the scene, it's kind of fascinating, because in that last moment, something clicked in his brain to find a safe place right before he died. Did the brain compensate for the fear he was having? Because the 15 or 20 seconds when he says, I'm going to die, all of a sudden he becomes extremely calm and says, I smell bread, and then dies within a few seconds later. And death happens that quickly. A lot of military medics can tell you it's that fast. So for me, the episode basically builds towards that line. And the case with the David Ogden Stiers, not passed away, one of the best, most underrated actors of his generation. People see that episode as kind of the breakthrough to make Charles Emerson Winchester almost the third lead of the show. Now, some people in 2020 that watch MASH, because in Canada it's shown in regular repeats on the Latino network, TLN. A lot of people of this generation growing up see the Charles Emerson Winchester character as the most real person on the show, because in frailties and all, he's trying to learn, and every moment he's over there. And Stiers brought a lot of compassion. And if you watch the last episode of the series, the movie, not to give it away, but all that thing that was built with Charles Emerson Winchester with this episode, where he fell in love with what they call a French girl, a touring group. It was all building, but it really started with this episode because it was nothing like we saw in MASH before. Before we had, the laugh track and Frank Burns against, Hawkeye and the rest of the crew. But Charles Emerson Winchester was almost like it was a sub MASH. Like when he had his bottle episode or whatever, he basically outacted Alan Alda, and that's hard to do. I know it's bizarre for me to say, but I like David Ogden Stiers as an actor in MASH better like Alan Alda, because Alan Alda was writing it, directing it, whatever. And at one point it was too much his show, but when David Ogden Stiers arrived, it became more and more in his show. And if you look at the Timothy character in Star Trek Next Generation, the character that, because of, this planet ritual suicide at 60, and, Troy's mother basically is trying to stop him from doing that world tradition. That was still part of the Charles Emerson Winchester character, but a more quieter version. So, anyway, for me, it's a 4-star episode out of 4. It's very scary. If you're scared to die, this is not the episode for you to watch. And if you're an atheist, this is going to fuck you up big time. That's all I can say.